Welcome to the Reboot Chronicles, your gateway to the world's most influential leaders who are rebooting their organizations and themselves to thrive in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeBias, CEO who's rebooted dozens of companies, creating billions in value. My passion is uncovering inspiring reboot stories. So buckle up, lean in, and please share this episode with a friend. It may help reboot their career and their life.
I'd like to welcome Grant Thornton CEO Jim Peko to the Reboot Chronicles. Started in Chicago 100 years ago, the company is part of Grant Thornton International, an $8 billion group that has 76,000 employees and hundreds of offices worldwide. And though they've been named to the 100 best companies list for the 20th year in a row now, I actually invited Jim for a different reason, because Grant Thornton is what we call in RIP mode. It's not rest in peace. For those of you that are new to us, it's reboots in progress. And our regular guests know those are the most exciting episodes because we often kind of enhance and dig into those. And sometimes it even affects their strategy. Across the professional landscape, though, what we've been seeing lately, from consulting to accounting to even law firms, some are in trouble, big trouble. And AI is not their friend yet. Some think they're rolling out Microsoft Copilot is enough, but as we know, it's not enough. It's just a start. So rather than being disrupted, Grant Thornton jumped in early with the goal of being a disruptor. Making no small plans, they brought in PE firm New Mountain Capital as a financial partner and just announced they're going to be investing $1 billion to build the next generation of AI-enabled technology. Jim, it's good to see you.
Great to see you, Dean. It's fantastic to be here
You've
today.
got quite a full plate as a new CEO. Maybe we start off there. What has it been like with this rapid-fire succession of you to the CEO slot? How's it been going for you personally?
It's been fantastic, actually. Prior to being the CEO, I was the COO for 5 years. So, I've been at the firm now almost 20.
Wow.
So I knew a lot about the firm. I would never say transition's easy because you don't know what you don't know. Transition's difficult, but I love being in the CEO role. We're very focused on differentiating in the market. And having New Mountain Capital as a partner has been fantastic because it's really got our M&A engine going. We started the year as Grant Thornton Advisors at about $2.3 billion in revenue. We're going to end the year on a pro forma basis after our acquisitions, almost $4 billion. So it's an exciting time. We're driving a lot of growth, but more importantly, it's really about opportunity for our people. Our people and clients are at the center, and we're creating opportunity for our people, and we're creating opportunity for our clients by expanding, the solution sets we offer. And with our multinational acquisition strategy, it creates a seamless experience from the client side.
Yeah.
So super excited to be here at GT.
Yeah.
And taking on the reins.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to have you on. Not too many companies that say they're going from $2 billion to $4 billion in the same calendar fiscal year. And most people think of Grant Thornton Advisors as an accounting firm. You guys are far from it. You have that capability in your network, but you guys are, I've used you. You're one of the top M&A advisement firms in the world. So who better to do acquisitions and roll up than the people that actually are coaching most of the companies through it?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Grant Thornton it's a diverse platform across audit, tax, and advisory. Grant Thornton Advisors is, heavily focused on advisory and tax. And when you split the distribution of the revenue up, it's, about 41% is audit, 35% is advisory, and the balance is tax. But, it's not about audit, advisory, and tax. It's really about, how we work with our clients, how we're infusing technology into our processes, both from an enabler in our own processes, as well as consulting with clients, on what they're doing with AI and data solutions, going forward. So we're helping them with AI readiness, helping them with implementation roadmaps and AI and transformation strategy. And that's what makes things just so interesting. This is not your, old legacy partnership accounting firm. We're doing something very different in the market and very differentiated.
Yep. So before we jump into the AI stuff, because it's both disruption as well as something you can leverage and take control of and maybe seize the day compared to your industry cohorts, I guess. What's this journey been like? I mean, you were suddenly thrown into a CEO role. None of us can properly prepare for that. I don't care how long you are a COO, but what's been the toughest part about that for you?
I think it really is about driving change. We are trying to transform the firm from a legacy partnership to more of a performance-driven organization with a focus on growth and a focus on outsized growth at that. We've always been in a top quartile in organic growth. We've never really had the inorganic game down. Now we have that with our partnership with New Mountain. And obviously you can see by the numbers, we're really doing well at that right now. I think the challenge for us is to make sure, particularly with these, the multinational strategy that we have,
Right.
we've got to make sure we integrate those well, respect cultures, because culture is really important from a philosophical perspective, but also respect local cultures and make sure that the integrations are going well. And so far they are. So
Right.
we've got a dedicated team on that, and we're actually ahead of schedule.
So those of you that don't know, the Grant Thornton's a very unique model. They've got a network of companies around the world. So one of your acquisition strategy, and by the way, New Mountain is a fantastic private equity partner. I can't say that about all the private equity partners in the world, but you've got a good partner. You've got plenty of cash. But you're actually rolling up some of the companies that are already part of the network. Why that versus outside companies?
Well, we're doing both. Our M&A strategy is actually quite simple. It's going deeper and broader in the services that we already provide, adding additional services that are tangential to our brand permission. And then from an international perspective, particularly those firms in the GT network, we look at them based on three characteristics. Where do we see outsized growth opportunity? So we recently closed on the acquisition of Grant Thornton UAE. That falls clearly into that
Big
bucket,
growth platform there.
Huge growth opportunities there. Where do we see industry alignment?
Yep.
And some of the recent acquisitions include the Cayman Islands, Ireland, Channel Islands, Luxembourg, Switzerland. Some of those have closed, some of those are pending.
Yep.
But there's a theme there: financial services, asset management. And then where do we have, client crossover? I was in Chicago a few months ago. I was very well prepared to have a conversation with one of our clients, the CFO. And before I could even get in the seat, she said, "Jim, I'm so excited about what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
I have an office in Cayman, I have an office in Ireland, and oh, by the way, I'm owned by a PE in this other country. And it'd be great if you acquired them as well." And I said, "Well, I can't make any promises, but it's where we have that client crossover."
Yep.
And that seems to be working, really well. And what's happening is that is really driving a lot of growth, because if you think about the network, it really is almost like a franchise model, right? The McDonald's in Chicago doesn't really understand what the McDonald's in New York is doing,
Or care.
and
Right.
you can think about the network in that
Yep.
way. What we were excellent at as a network is if a client came in and said, "Look, I need services in these countries," we were excellent at being reactive and going and providing those services in 3 countries. Where we weren't that good is if a client went into, say, country A and said, "Hey, I want to do an Oracle implementation." If they didn't have an Oracle business in that country, they'd say, "Well, we don't do that." Now, by aligning the platform, when that client goes into, say, Ireland, we've got a deep bench of, SI business here in the US. We bring them into the US. And that has really kickstarted growth. We're seeing, opportunities on multiples of what they've been historically from a cross-border perspective. So I am really, really excited about what we're doing internationally and how it lines up, for our clients.
When you look at the systems integration side, you said SI, Oracle, Microsoft, Google, throw in a few others, whoever, but Are you guys pretty are you agnostic, or I know you've been a Microsoft shop for a long time. So how do you kind of stay more as an arms dealer there?
I think you've got to be very careful. Oracle is a big part of our business. I think they will absolutely continue to be a big part of our business, but we'll also look at other packages as well, and we've got expertise in 4 or 5 others. Yeah,
and let's dig into the tech stack. So AI, we've had a couple of your competitors on, big dogs down to the regional up and comers, and with some AI is kind of kicking them around right now, and they're laying off people. I know one law firm that's going to probably get rid of maybe 300 lawyers that are on the intake side of data analysis and things. So it hasn't rippled through the industry yet. But you've chosen to, rather than get kicked around, to actually try to be a disruptor. You're basically going to allocate $1 billion toward that. What's that strategy all about? What's it look like, and what kind of platform do you end up with?
Yeah, I think it's a true differentiator in the market. And I would say in accounting and consulting, one of the things that, firms traditionally have been bad at is that differentiation, particularly in the accounting business, because, more than 50% of your revenue comes from compliance work. What we're really doing is trying to truly differentiate that so that we get outsized market growth. And we're doing that, through AI and tech, and certainly what we're doing structurally with the platform that I just mentioned around M&A. But, we are using AI really in 2 different ways. We're using it to enable our activities and simplify our activities. So, things like research, modeling, documentation, that's all going by way of AI, and it frees up our practitioners to deliver much higher value billable work. We're also, looking at, from the client side, new offerings around AI and data solutions. We're helping companies implement roadmaps, develop their AI strategy and transformation, and really help them with AI readiness assessments. Also, we're shifting our model from an assess and recommend to a transform and deliver. And we think that, AI is really going to help us, particularly our advisory model is evolving from implementation to value creation. So it's not just diagnostics anymore. And when you look at, from the client side, the clients will pay for outcomes. They're not really paying for effort. So we're looking at, our pricing models, which we're adjusting.
Right.
Based on, risk transfer, governance, and value creation.
I kind of love that because, going from analysis to recommendation to transformation and delivering and implementation to valuation, that's a whole different company, really. That's not like an hourly billing company either. That's we talking like success fees and upside, or since you're kind of on the audit side too, do you have to be careful on the governance side there? I see some interesting business models, which we love to talk about here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it will force us. And if the industry doesn't come along, those who don't are going to fall back. You have to look at your pricing models. It's not time and materials
exactly.
anymore.
I don't see them. I don't see them all coming along right now. I talk to them all the time.
I don't look. I share that feeling, and I think we are on the forefront. But what this does also is it really makes it an exciting platform for talent. Right? Our platform becomes a destination for talent because it's truly differentiating. I think the younger talent in the market today, they're looking for something new and exciting. I can give you an anecdote. Certainly not that my daughter is the example of every 26-year-old in the market, but while she was in college, she did an internship here in the strategy group, and she loved it. She then did an internship at another firm in accounting, and she said, "Dad, my God, how do you do it? Like, accounting is boring. I don't want to be an accountant." Ultimately, she got into investment banking. But the point is that this is no longer the sleepy old legacy partnership.
Right.
We are on the cutting edge, and talent wants to come here because they see the do different. They see the opportunity. It is all about opportunity.
Yeah, I love that when you're looking at talent. First, your daughter's story made me laugh because when I took my first business class, I think I was still 15. I left high school early and took accounting. And I'm like, oh no, just shoot me now. They said, you probably should go take marketing or something else, sales, something a little more creative. But no, you're so right. It's all about the people and the talent. So when like at Reboot, when we're rebooting companies off the podcast, off the air, it's about people, platform, and passion. We talk a lot about platform here, but you're actually on the passion side trying to figure out how do I reignite the next generation and get them to come to work here, either as an employee or a contractor. What is your message to them? Why should they call you?
Well, I'll say it again, not to be too repetitive. We have a truly differentiated platform, but where we really differentiate is, now that we're in a corporate type structure with the investment from New Mountain and going through that conversion from a partnership to a corporate, our younger people now have the opportunity to participate in the upside of the equity. We are pushing equity down through the organization for our highest performers. So I want to be clear, not everyone has equity, but our highest performers at the manager and senior manager director level do have a taste of that equity, and that sets them up. They see how we're progressing, sets them up for ultimately when they become partners and get a much, bigger share of the equity, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a differentiated reward system. And not only is it a differentiated reward system, but it also, again, presents differentiated opportunities for our people.
Yeah, I love that. We hosted a 1871 event over at one of the big three, and I don't see that. The culture's different, it's more friendly and there's free food and stuff, but I don't see a lot of sharing going on. It's still the old partner strategy. So I like that, you overperform. I'm going to bring you into the club earlier, which is great because most of them aren't going to stick around to be a partner anyway. So that was smart. And the platform, if you truly are building this next gen stuff, that alone is a tractor because they get to work on cool stuff.
Absolutely.
So can we go back to M&A? So what about, we've got this program called Dancing to Startups where we help multinationals partner with startups all over the world. Sometimes they just partner, sometimes they acquire, sometimes it's a different type of relationship maybe. But when you're looking at the M&A stack, are you looking at you're outside of your core, enabling technologies, all the different things that the ecosystem is going to need over the next second half of the decade?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the simple, and then I'll get into a little bit of more complex.
Yeah.
We recently acquired a company called Oxys. They're a domestic managed services business with nearshore capabilities in Costa Rica and Colombia, but they are really a tech-driven managed services platform that's focused on, finance, IT risk, and compliance. So that gets me excited because that plays right into, the thesis about adding services and going broader and wider. And then most recently, we actually just closed a company called Stacks, which provides commercial diligence and post-deal value creation, which is not services that we currently provide today, but fits in really nice into our transaction services stack. So we see, huge opportunity. Now, on the tech side, we've had numerous conversations with early stage companies, particularly, companies involved in AI. Frankly, there are a couple of those companies I'd love to acquire. They're not for sale, but they are working with us to help us create more efficient delivery process internally that in turn then help us reduce our cost of delivery, creating more competitiveness in the market. So we are in, lots of conversations with early stage companies, mostly on the tech side.
Yeah, I think it's critical for companies like you to pivot. It's like, A, don't do it alone. B, don't, get out of your swim lanes, which most consulting groups, but you're one of them, you can break the rules, advise them not to do. Or if they do, they might pick the wrong lane. But yeah, this whole enabling technology and services business collision happening. It's many of them were like, eat or be eaten. So, and it could be that you even end up supplying a lot of the other players with enabling services. I mean, at some point, do the lines get blurred about who's a competitor in the future, who's not?
Well, I think what you have is you have a lot of competitors that aren't deemed to be competitors. And it's important to recognize that right now, because what's happening is as you bring AI in, as you bring other tech in to help enable and create greater efficiency in your services, I mean, in effect, what's happening is they're stealing wallet share from you.
Right.
And look, there may be some creative pricing that you can use to grab that back. But, there are these non-traditional competitors. You just don't see them because, their names aren't up in lights, as one of the top 10 or 25 accounting firms.
Yeah, or they're either too small or they're nibbling away at another part of the business. But you just said the most important thing. It's like there's only so much budget money these companies have. So it might be going to a totally different venture that has nothing to do with you, but it's competing with you.
It is quite interesting. And look, you've got to be cognizant of it. You've got to look around corners and understand. That's why, as I mentioned, there are a lot of startups that we've been in conversations with. And, while our core competency isn't in tech development, we do some things internally. We are using third parties externally, but, I think that there's opportunity there in the future for sure.
And when you look at the big dog clients that you, so we call the Fortune 500s and the Global 1000, you spend a lot of time with CFOs, probably CIOs. Do you see in the future spending more time at the C-suite and above with the CEO and strategy and that kind of stuff?
I definitely see that because, those are the prime buyer groups, CEOs, COOs, CFOs, CIOs, and then sort of next level down, chief accounting officers, compliance officers. We'll still stay true to our knitting in providing those other services, but we see tremendous opportunity for growth on the consulting side of the business, driven by tech and AI.
Well, and growth was the keyword I was going for, not your growth, their growth. You kind of moved from this, like you said, kind of going from the transaction more to valuation improvement. How do you increase my growth and my value and, make me a more innovative company as your client? How do you help me do that? And it seems like you're shifting a lot of your assets to move up that value chain. And
no doubt that's exactly, what we're attempting to do. As I mentioned, we kicked off our AI and data offering. We did that earlier in the summer. So we're just a few months in and we're already selling engagements. That is a hot offering.
Oh, yep.
And, there are companies are not turning a blind eye to it. They are looking at, AI readiness. They're looking at AI strategies. Everyone in the market, almost, top to bottom is really thinking about how AI impacts their business.
Yeah, the think to do ratio is off in some companies, but what do you think C-suite is not getting right about AI?
That's a really excellent question, Dean. And I think I think there are certain businesses, that feel, and I'd throw our business into this, that because they're in a regulated business, AI is not going to have as big an impact or as fast an impact. I actually don't believe that. Sure, we're in a regulated business, but no doubt AI is going to have a big impact. So I think there's also a reluctance to change. And I'm really focused on, where there's pushback and where people get it wrong. I think there are a lot of people that are getting it right. There may be an advantage to be a fast follower versus a first mover because there's a lot of learnings. there's been a lot of money invested, and there's a lot that you can learn by the mistakes of the people trying to be first movers. But I do think it's about ignoring what the environment is really telling us. And that is, AI is, in my opinion, here to stay, and it's going to change business. And you're either going to embrace it or you're going to fall behind. And you might not just fall behind. You may not be heard of anymore. You might go by the way of Sears and Kmart.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Well, you're definitely not just talking about it. You're putting your money where your mouth is. What are you going to do with $1 billion investing in AI?
It's we have a roadmap in place where we continue to develop that roadmap. That $1 billion is, incorporates some of our core spending as well in tech. But it is going to be about enabling our business to go faster. Balance growth and quality. Certainly improvements in quality delivery are going to be really important. And we've incorporated some really cool processes into our audit business that, will improve quality. So it's really across the board. And it's not just internal. As I said, we're going to continue to build out, AI from a client side as well. So it's about digital enablement internally, drive down our cost of delivery, but also create opportunities for clients, through those AI assessments and roadmaps, et cetera.
Yeah, what does that look like? If I'm one of your big clients and, maybe I'm thinking of switching next year, but you're like, no, hold on. Let me show you where we're going. Look at this. Well, you got to stay with us because we're going to have probably the best tools out there. Or what's your pitch to them? What are you going to look like?
It's all about value creation and moving away from, the pure diagnostics and really becoming partners with your clients, helping them advance their agenda, and advance their value creation strategy.
And
and that will show up in different ways.
Yeah, what's that going to look like? Maybe pick an industry.
If we look at financial services, for instance, right? What does the regulatory change mean there? How do we implement AI, and then how do we, bring that across our unified multinational platform, right? Because there are different things that are going to impact different markets, and with the use of technology, we can get there faster with higher quality and really help them develop strategies to take advantage of that and separate them from the pack.
So, little shift here to marketing. You guys are a big sponsor of the LPGA. We just had Jan Stevenson on, who was the face of the LPGA for years. I actually put them on the map. Without her, they probably never would have had that reboot decades ago. But you could have done any men's golf outing, but I think it's great that you have been supporting the LPGA. Why do you guys do that?
Look, culture is really important to us, and we're big sponsors in golf, and we think that while there's been a lot of news out in the market around diversity, equity, inclusion, this is something that we continue to double down on. And we think by sponsoring the Grant Thornton Invitational, which will happen, in December, this is, I believe, the only male-female golf tournament out there. So it is some of the top female golfers in the world and male golfers in the world. And it's a great weekend. It really gives, a lot of exposure to both sides. And it's just an excellent, opportunity to share stories and understand, what's going on in the sports world, but then bringing that back down, into the, world of professional services. Because, as I said, we continue to double down in DE&I, very important to us. And so we think that by having a premier event like that, really shows our commitment.
Yeah, down in sunny Naples, Florida, where we're broadcasting from one of our studios, so both Naples and Chicago. So it's a good time of year too. And we've just learned so much about that organization that I just think it's great to see big companies supporting it, and probably your clients too. So Jim, really want to thank you for joining us. You've been through a lot of things. You've jumped into this new role, which has been very challenging. But what's been your biggest reboot when you look back on your career, and what kind of advice can you give to the next gen?
Yeah, so I'll share a personal story. I started my career in investment banking, and for the first 12 years or so of my career, I worked at a great company. I had great experience. I used to joke around with my wife and tell her, "This is the greatest job in the world. I'm never leaving. I'm never going anywhere." And then, of course, we did a joint venture that gave me a really interesting opportunity, just not the right time in my life to go to Tokyo. I couldn't do that. I had one child, a year old, another child on the way. They were the first grandchildren of the family, and that was going to create a problem with grandparents. And that's when I made the switch onto the consulting side.
Yeah, smart.
And, if I advance the clock a little bit, almost 20 years ago now, I happened to have one of those casual collisions, like literally in an elevator in the Chrysler building here in New York. I was at another firm. I ran into a friendly competitor, and she said, "Hey, I'm at GT. I'm helping build out a portion of our advisory practice. We should go to lunch." We went to lunch. And, here I am 20 years later. But I would tell you, I never expected to be here 20 years later. I went on that, I guess it was really the last interview with the regional managing partner and the office managing partner. And at the time, I'm about 38 years old. And they're selling me on the pension that I wasn't going to see for 25 years and then collect over another 25.
Old school.
And I was like, sounds good, but I'm an advisory guy, and, advisory goes through economic cycles. I don't think I'm going to make it through 5, but I always looked at my career in 3 to 5 year increments, even though I stayed at my first job for 12. Needless to say, I joined, and here I am, 23 years later, and I hate to use the cliche, but, what if it turns out better than you ever thought? And that's the seat I'm in today.
Yeah.
It's turned out better than I ever thought. I love this firm. I love our people. I love our clients. And it's, the advice that I have for any younger folks, and I always give it to my kids as well, is don't be afraid of change. And when the door opens, assess the opportunity and walk through it, because that's what I did, and it has served me well throughout my career.
Nice.
Though our structure has changed, I think I'm unique among, CEOs in the profession with my background, although there are probably some that share a similar background. But it's embrace change. Don't be afraid to make decisions, be courageous, and look, leadership is hard. If there's one thing that I've learned as a leader, it's hard. You have to make difficult decisions that aren't going to make everyone happy. So you have to make decisions for the most, not for all.
All right. Well, the way that there, walk through that door. Jim Peko, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Dean. It was a pleasure.
You got it. You listened to Jim Peko, who's the CEO of Grant Thornton, or like call him GT now. This is Dean DeBias with the Reboot Chronicles. Please like us, subscribe wherever you get podcasts, or at rebootchronicles.com.